Erik and Cynthia, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Let's take control of this presentation. We're going to do a double presentation with me and Cynthia. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Erik Wegh, Commercial Director of Interchem, working for 15 years now within the company, mainly responsible for the strategic business development and sustainability within our company. Something about Interchem as a collector and processor of hazardous waste. We aim to add value to the waste we collect, and we have our own production facilities for both paint and solvent. We do distillation of solvents and specialize in recycling the paint with processing and reusing them, which positioned us now as the paint recycling company as we are today. Well, for the introduction, from the same philosophy, we started 10 years ago, starting recycling wall paint residues from both professional painters as consumers, which has led, well, by example, the collaboration with Akzo Nobel and development of the recycled wall paint, the Sikkens Alpha Recycle Mat. Well, I'm happy to speak here and well, tell you about the possibilities of paint recycling, but also the challenges we're still facing in this process. Cynthia.
Yes, thank you, Erik. Hi all, I'm Cynthia van Westerhuizen, working for Akzo Nobel, one of the big paints and coatings companies in the world. I'm working for the department Decorative Paints Benelux, so Belgium and Netherlands. And with decorative paints, we mean actually the paints that you and I use on our house. On your front door, in your garden, on your window frame, etc., etc. We are active in multiple countries, but I'm representing Belgium Benelux. And I manage our technical experts and quality, meaning I'm working a lot with the products, the interface between marketing and R&D. Sustainability is also a big part of my role, and that's actually why I am here. I'm active in multiple, let's say the Belgium and Netherlands, the Dutch paint associations, in the working groups about sustainability, and I have been heavily involved in the product that Erik already mentioned, Alpha Recycle Mat, one of the product that we will showcase you today. I'm happy to be here, and let me see if I can take over control to move to the next slide. Wait, there are multiple slides. Yes, here we are. So we are here today because, of course, Erik and I, Interchem, Akzo Nobel, we are very proud of a collaboration that we've set up. Starting at the beginning, we sell paint. We sell a lot of paint, not only Akzo Nobel. There are, of course, other big paint companies in Europe. And in the Netherlands, we've done investigation and we figured out that around 10% of the sold paint is not used. You can imagine it yourself. I guess you might all have once painted a wall in your living room, for example. You had a leftover, you put it in your shed and you think, well, that might be useful one day. And after 5 years, you walk in that shed again and you think, that bucket, it's still there. And then at a certain time you say, okay, now it's enough. I'm not going to use it anymore. I will bring it to one of the waste collecting points. So that happens a lot. Around 10% of the sold paint ends up as waste. And to give you a number about it, that would mean in the Netherlands around 7,000 tons of paint, which of course is a lot. So we think there is really an opportunity to build a circular framework to do something with that. Today, Erik and I are really talking about our collaboration, but I also want to highlight already in this point that we as an industry in our paint association locally, we've said, okay, this is indeed a challenge. We acknowledge it and we think we need to work together. So in Belgium and Netherlands, working groups have been started, but today I want to zoom in the example, very clear example, successful example that we already have. Besides that successful story, of course, we will also tell you a bit about what we are learning and challenges we see for the future. Erik, the floor is yours.
All right. and I take control again. On the next slide, we're talking about challenges in the paint recycling in the process, or going from a linear process to a circular process. I'm talking about the environmental impact, some key essentials you see on your left, and zooming in on collection and processing challenges we still facing, ending it with a lack of awareness, which is very important. Starting with setting the scene, focusing on hazardous waste from the households, also known in the Netherlands as small hazardous waste. The paint waste constitutes a significant part. There was a survey a few years ago in 2022 among 18 Dutch municipalities, and shows that of the chemical waste households that hand in at the municipalities at collection sites, about 53% by weight is paint. Of that paint waste, about 66% is the latex, or what we call the water-based paint. So the environmental impact speaks for itself. As long as there are no other opportunities or solutions for that paint, and they're not available, most of the paint still ends up in incineration, even landfills, or flushed down the drain. So we can conclude it is important to address this issue and find a solution for it. For us, if we talk about circular impact, there are some 3 key questions, key essentials that we address in our process, and whether a waste stream for us is considered recyclable or not, and make circular impact with it. That's what we do. So what you see on your left, 3. The first one, can we reduce the CO2 emissions? Can we produce a quality that meet up with the market standards? And the third, can we create, and that's also a very important one, can we create a sustainable business model which is cost efficient? Well, about the first 2, can we reduce CO2 emissions? Yes, because obviously the biggest CO2 impact lies in not having to produce the raw materials again. Can we produce a qualitatively new product or process the material in our own production? Yes, we have an answer to that. It's more technically, Cynthia will come back to this subject on later slides after this. So I'm trying to zoom in the third one, creating a sustainable, cost-efficient business model, and taking you through the process that's for us led us to several proven products with successful recycled products, but also the challenges we have encountered and still facing in this process. I think, starting with the collection, I go to the next slide, this one. The collection and the processing challenges, starting with collection of the paint waste. If you want to build a circular model that works, first we have a broader challenge we have to face, and it is to control the entire circular process. We need to align our structural demand for recycled paint with the waste supply, the waste intake, ensuring a reliable waste stream we can build on. And while referring to that cost efficient model, going from linear to circular, we see we have to compete with the established linear waste processing system that has been optimized for many years, and but directing paint straight to incineration. So that is a logistic model, based on the need for paint to fuel the incineration and generate energy. So, but unfortunately, the pricing and the contracts are built around this system. So, since our recycling process is mainly manual and still cost intensive because it's in a starting phase. We still need to convince the waste contractors, but also the painters, we have a better alternative for this incineration, but it's not necessarily cheaper than incineration. So that's the first challenge in collection. The semi-manual process we have challenged us to make next the process as efficient as possible. So the process consists in 3 main stages. The first one, sorting. For us, it's essential to collect as much usable material as possible. Though we set the conditioning for the water-based paint at containing at least 25% to qualify it for internal sorting. Otherwise, the usable material isn't cost effective to have manual label on it, which is needed to separate it from the packaging. And currently we're also focusing on the 5 and 10 liter buckets. So in the primary sorting, it is important to have this correct. That's formerly also the external sorting. And it is important to maintain our high yields. Based on the level of contamination, we do a visual inspection opening the containers. The paint leftovers also being sorted in usable, non-usable, and after that we already also sort by color and by quality. If we look at separating, the next step, we're going to separate the contents from the packaging. The usable paint fraction is collected in a paint vessel, and we're going to analyze it. The bonus in this recycling process is because the buckets are scraped clean. You can see on the picture. That's why it's perfectly suited for plastic recycling. So the empty containers out of the process are sent to a partner, another partner of Veolia Polymers, and they process them into granules to make new paint buckets out of it. Next step in our process is the production. A very important step in this one is the filtering the separated fraction. With specially designed filter, we remove all the possible fine contamination from the usual paint. So and after that, the filtered fraction is blended with new virgin material to ensure the desired quality. I think that the main challenge we have in this process is to align the production with our sorting and separating process, and on all these steps to come together to minimize the contamination during this process and degradation of the material. Now, obviously, it is being checked all the time, on which Cynthia also will go into with more detail. Going back to the last one, the lack of awareness. The lack of awareness is also a challenge as well in the front end as in the back end. Due to this lack of awareness, there's no clear incentive to dispose the paint residues properly. So what we see is paint residues still end up in other waste streams, such industrial waste or construction waste. So without these awareness, there are some recycling possibilities. Users, consumers in this way, they are less likely to bring their paint residues to the right collection point. And I think this is in line with the story Cynthia just told you about. We all leaving buckets with paint in our shed, in our closet, and home, thinking we're still going to use it, but in reality that rarely even happens. And then the same buckets with paint are still there, but unfortunately dried out and not usable then. anymore. On the other hand, so also in the front end, there's also that same lack of awareness of using recycled content and using products with recycled content. So, but that's hindering us from scaling up and to meet up with this efficiency goals, because we need to scale up in that part. Yeah, so as a result, because they don't know the recycled solution and recycled product, demand for recycled product is still limited. So handing it over to you, Cynthia.
Thank you. Yes, so I will go to the, I think the clearest example of a recycling solution we have got. You see here on the screen a bucket, Sikkens Alpha Recycle Mat. Sikkens might be a brand you recognize. It's a big brand all over Europe. And I think this is really the proud example of the collaboration between Interchem and Akzo Nobel, where we have been able to develop a product and to sell a product with recycled content. I think the strength of our collaboration is that we really have got two different expertises, different areas of expertise. So Akzo Nobel really knows how to develop a paint. We've got all the knowledge, what does the customer want? Interchem has got the expertise about collecting waste, recycling waste, the legislative part about waste. Akzo Nobel is also not really familiar with that. So combining those two, I think we've got a, let's say, golden combination. When we talk about selling a product, of course, quality is key. People pay a lot of money for it, so it should be good. So that was, especially for my responsibility, I think the biggest thing to sort out. So we have, really intense collaboration, I would say, with the colleagues of Interchem, having a lot of meetings to discuss how to do this the best. And I think it started with making agreements on the incoming waste. Erik already explained that there's a lot of sorting going on. Not all paints can be reworked in such a paint. So we said, okay, you can use these paints, no problem at all, but please, these paints, if you can sort them out, that would really help us. So that was actually step one, to ensure that we get the quality we want. Erik already told you, at Interchem, they empty the buckets and they make a blend of it, let's say the PCR blend. The main risk of that is that it might be contaminated with microorganisms. Waterborne paint tends to grow bacteria, fungi, so it's important that they are killed. So Akzo Nobel, with our expertise, we dictated Interchem, okay, for this recipe, we want you to add these biocides in these amounts to make sure the paint is clean. Then we came to the point where we said, okay, we've got the PCR blend, but from that we need to make a proper paint with the quality expectations that a Sikkens customer has in the Netherlands and in Belgium. And from there, we have been testing a lot. You see on the bucket a logo stating this paint contains 35% recycled content. So what we have been doing, we have been testing multiple combinations. We have been testing different virgin paints. You can imagine, Akzo Nobel, we've got a lot of recipes. So we've tested different virgin paint recipes in combination with the recycled blend in different ratios. And we figured out at a certain time, okay, 35% PCR, 65 virgin paint with this recipe of virgin paint gives us the good quality the painter wants. Step one, it also needs to be stable over time, meaning batch after batch, every batch needs to be within the same specification, and it needs to be a narrow specification because in this case, we talk about a professional painter, it's not a consumer. So we have not tested one sample, we've tested multiple samples to ensure that batch after batch we produce the right quality. And from there, as an Akzo Nobel, we set specifications that once Interchem is really producing the paint, they need to measure according to given specs. And if all's okay, we say this is good, it can go to the market. I think so far everything is going very well, so that is good. All the work was worth it. of course, we were facing challenges. I think a very honest answer of the biggest challenge was to be open and transparent and sharing knowledge. We as Akzo Nobel, we are a multinational that brings a lot of politics in the company. And we think this is our knowledge. We know how to make paint, and now all of a sudden we need to tell Erik how to make paint. Is that really what we want? So there, a lot of internal discussion have been going on. Like, okay, this we can share. We build trust. We want this. We need to share this information. I think that is something we don't need to underestimate. Another big challenge was safety information. Paint is a chemical product, so we need to provide safety information. If we make fresh paint, it's rather easy because we know which raw materials we put in the paint. We've got the safety information about the raw materials, so we can make the safety information of our finished product. But in this case, actually every batch of recycled content is different, you can imagine. So what we've done there at the beginning, we have tested multiple PCR blends. We have them fully analyzed. And from there, we built up kind of a recipe where we said, okay, if these are the outer specs of that recycled blend, this is the safety information. We are sure that this is safe. No raw materials are in it that we don't want anymore. And based on this, we've got an accurate data set, what we can use to build our safety data sheets. Last challenge I want to highlight is that legislation is becoming more restrictive. It already was a challenge at that time, but it's becoming more and more restrictive. I already told you we add biocides to the paint to ensure it won't grow bacteria and fungi. But the legislation about biocides is becoming more restrictive every year. So that is also really a challenge for the future. If we really think the circular way forward is the way to go, it's important that the European politicians are also aware of the risk they are creating by making this legislation more restrictive. Something to think about, I think, with all of us. I also wanted to show you the number of carbon footprint reduction. Erik already mentioned, of course, we are reducing the carbon footprint. Here you see a clear number. We have done LCA calculations, life cycle analysis calculations, done at a third party. And it has been calculated that the carbon footprint of this Alpha Recycle Mat is 32% lower than the average Akzo Nobel wall paint we sell in the Netherlands. And then we talk about carbon footprint per square meter painted surface. So that is a very nice number, I can tell you. Of course, we are doing different things to reduce the carbon footprint, but nothing reduced it as much as this circular solution. Because that, of course, is what it is. By using this, we prevent paint. In the base is good paint, although the consumer might think it's waste. It's good paint we can reuse by treating it at the right way. We can prevent producing new raw materials, gaining materials from the earth. So really circular. You might notice that I'm really proud of this. I'm very glad that together with Interchem we've been able to make this, and proud to showcase that this partnership is bringing something that makes a first step for doing something with all those leftovers. I think, Erik, the next slide is yours again.
Yes, it is. Well, some insights and future directions. Well, talking about this circular initiative and trying to grow it and make it even bigger. There's also a role of local governments, and I think that role is crucial. Not only at facilitating, but also educating, collaborating, and building an infrastructure. So looking at the facilitating of the collection points, research has shown that accessibility is key to ensuring paint residues are disposed properly. So for the painters, consumers looking at their interest, first of all, the consumers are willing to make a sustainable choice, but they do search for convenient location of collection sites. It must be low key. That also means for the painters, the professional painters, and they also want it to be free of charge, a free collection system. So, well, what we're trying to do now is an improvement on the existing recycling centers, because that's already been achieved in the Netherlands. It's already being facilitated. We're trying, in collaboration with them, to increase that and create more point collection points within a system, Paint Collect, where both consumers and painters can return their paint residues even more easily. If you talk about educating citizens, like I said, they are willing to make a sustainable choice. But, well, again, we need to reduce the lack of awareness. And I referred that earlier. It is important to educate them and letting them know about paint recycling. So if the users are involved in the problem and informed about the existence and possibilities of this paint recycling, they will be more likely to bring their waste, their paint waste, correctly and to the right disposal points, and even start for painters using recycled products. So on that part, collaborating with the stakeholders, well, is with many circular initiatives. Collaborating with along this whole value chain is key. I believe that, and well, you need to create a sort of shared interest with policy and legislation from local authorities can help, possibly through creating an efficient EPR framework. So the last one, going on to that, and building infrastructure and engagement, we need to improve that infrastructure. Also, I mentioned earlier, local authorities can also provide support in the areas of regulation and enforcement by building this infrastructure and more focused on circularity instead of linear processes. So in that perspective, it all comes down to awareness and, well, just what we did, taking action from awareness of the problem, the responsibility we all have, to the knowledge of the solution, the producer, the user, also the collector, and the processor of the waste, which also intends the local authorities. Well, behavior and motivation, I think, run as a common thread throughout this process. Going back to you, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you. Last slide. I think we're running a bit out of time.
Yeah.
Perhaps I will stop after the success factors. I think all the challenges have been mentioned already before. I think the success factor of this story was really the entrepreneurship, having the mentality to say, okay, we're going to do it. Of course, you can analyze it until forever. You can talk about it forever, but at a certain time you need to say, okay, we're going to give it a try. I think that is what's really showcasing why we now have got a product on the market. Another thing I already said is really trust each other, be honest and share knowledge, but also give it some time to grow. Of course, it would be wonderful if you do something innovative that it will always be a big success from the beginning on, but sometimes things need time. So I think we also need to be realistic with all each other, and sometimes you need to give it some time to grow. I would like to end with this.